Welcome, fellow yarn lovers, to episode 31, I think. Yes, of Mouse's Makes. Apologies for being missing last week. I have had several complaints. I'm afraid I hurt myself in the shower Wednesday morning and I just couldn't sit. And added to the injury, the insult was that my phone would not charge, and I use my phone to film. So one way and another, I just wasn't up to recording. Anyway, better now. So I apologise again. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. I have finished my Shawlography and I'm displaying it not at all well on my person. I put it on when I finished it and took some pictures for Instagram, and I managed to look much nicer in it. I don't know quite why I can't replicate that today. But it is finished. It is finished and I actually really love it. I have several things that it will go with and I do fully intend to wear it. I am, however, going to have to take it off shortly, I suspect, because I'm very hot at the moment. I meant to open a window and I forgot. And now I am literally boiling. Never mind. So, should have done all this last week. Let me give you the rundown on the Shawlography. I won't be capering around like Stephen West did at the end of his Clue 4 in celebration of having finished his shawl, for various reasons, not least of which I am an overweight middle-aged lady with balance issues. This is a caper-free zone. But I am nonetheless just as pleased as Stephen was with his. And I'm not afraid to say that. There's a lot of people saying, oh, you know, I did it because it was a mystery knit along and it's really not my thing. And I have to hold my hand up and say, had I seen the pattern before I knit it, I probably wouldn't have done it. But now I have done it, I actually rather like it, even though it does look like I've thrown on a dish rag at the moment. That's my styling issue, nothing to do with the garment itself. Completely lost my thread there, but yes, I do actually like it. He did say, I'm sure, that if the colours you use are colours that you like, you will end up liking the finished project, and that certainly worked for me. Not for a lot of people, unfortunately, and I am sorry about that for them, because it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun as well. So there you go. It was my first mystery knit along and it won't be my last, although I'm not going to do his one. He's got one starting on Boxing Day. I'm not going to do that because I have got another pattern of his that I want to knit that's very similar. So, and that's not a mystery anyway, that's just a knit along. But I will more than likely do the one next autumn if he does it. So there you go. I must stop saying there you go. Right. You've probably seen, because I'm now weeks behind everybody else, you were told to have 500 grams of each colour, and we've used far less than 500 grams, which when we got to Clue 4 was causing a bit of concern among those of us who were sort of chatting about our shawls, because the fear was we got an awful lot of yarn left, and how big was this Clue 4 going to be? Well, it turned out not to be that big at all. It's this stripy edge, which I'm not going to show you again. I showed it to you before and I've gone through each section every week, so I'm not going to do that again. Don't want to bore you. But how much yarn did I have left? Colour A, this was my colour A, which was mustard. This was Stylecraft Special 4-ply, and I used 63 grams of the 100 grams. colour B, and I'm afraid I don't know what this was. It was Deep Stash. It's lost its label. It was quite possibly Stylecraft, but equally possibly James C. Brett, I think, was another one I had a lot of foreplay. But I do know they're all 100% acrylic. I know, purists everywhere are fainting away like Victorian ladies. But I went over my rationale for using my acrylic yarn in case I didn't like it and to prevent having to spend a fortune on yarn that really I didn't have, to be honest, when I could pull it out of stash. Sorry, croaking again. So yarn B, I used 78.6 grams. That was the one I used the most of, and that makes the most sense really, because there is quite a lot of cream in the shawl. It's in the wedges at the top, it's in the brioche, the little I-cord loops, so that makes sense. Colour C was the navy, again Stylecraft special 4-ply, and I used 48.9 grams of that, so I could have got away with a 50-gram ball. The reason I've written all this down is that I fully intend to make this again in, I was going to say better yarn, but there's nothing wrong with this, and the beauty of it is I can chuck it in the washing machine without worrying it's going to come out of a size to fit the cat rather than me. So I've made a note of how much I've used so that I've got an idea when I re-knit it how much of what colour I'm going to need. So less than 50 grams of colour C. Colour D, again, lost its ball band, no idea what it was. 58.7 grams of that. And colour E, which was Stylecraft special 4-ply again, just over 50 grams, 50.1 grams of that one. So you could almost get it out of a 50-gram ball for 3 of the colours, certainly. And I think if you jiggled your colours about, you probably could get it out of a 50-gram ball for those. But anyway, that is my roundup of the Shawlography shawl. I won't mention it again. You've seen it every week for, well, this is the 5th week you've seen it, so you're probably thoroughly fed up with it now. But that's it, rounded up and in a nutshell. And even though I had a bit of an issue when I did this section, when all said and done, I really like it. So I'm pleased that I did it. And I've cooled down a bit now. I'm going to keep it on for a little longer. Okay. I've got into some gift knitting. I started to panic about how fast Christmas was creeping up on me. And I showed you some gift knits that I'd started last episode. Since then, I cast on another one. I've been really wanting to make a Musselburgh hat. And as I mentioned, I make a hat for my brother every year, either for his birthday or for Christmas. And I must be honest and tell you, he hasn't had a hat for a couple of years, because 3 years ago, I think, I was feeling particularly generous. And so I sent him for Christmas a hat, a t-shirt and a mug, a special mug, not just any old mug. And about April or May, a friend of his messaged me on Facebook and said, I've just found a card from Royal Mail. And I said to Chris is my brother's name, what was this? And he said, oh, I don't know. It came through the door, but I never picked it up because I hadn't ordered anything. And she said to him, you do realise this was your Christmas present from Mandy, don't you? So somewhere in South London is a postman wearing Chris's hand knitted hat, his very carefully chosen t-shirt, and he's drinking tea from his special mug. So he didn't get a hat for a couple of years because I was quite cross with him. But I wanted to knit a Musselburgh, and so he's getting a Musselburgh. It is DK, really because I didn't have any plain or tonal 4-plies in a colour that he would wear. He's very much grey, black or navy. You can have variations of those colours, but they're his core colours. So he's getting a grey Starcraft Special DK Musselburgh. It's going to be very warm, and you're probably thinking, well, you've mentioned he lives in London. Does it get cold enough? Probably not, but he is bald and also has an underactive thyroid, so he does feel the cold. So I think an extra warm hat will be fine. So that's the first of my gift knits, and that's one that I've cast on since I showed you last episode, I think. Yes, I'm sure I didn't show you that before. Where are we? This one I've shown you before. Sorry, I'm missing 1 week. Causes such pandemonium. I get so out of practice at laying my stuff out and being all organised. Right. This one I did show you before, and I didn't think to put a marker in. This is a neck warmer, and I can't remember. I think I was probably about there, maybe a bit further. It is, I mean, I don't know if you can tell, it is really boingy. I don't know how else to describe it. It's very, very stretchy. And the yarn I'm using, which is, excuse me, King Cole Footsie. It's, I think, 97% acrylic, and the other 3% is some stretchy compound. But it knits up and feels like cotton. So I'm loving this. I'm looking at getting another ball for myself. That one's almost finished. I'm just knitting till I finish the ball, and I'm really sorry about the croaking and the coughing. I reckon that'll be finished by the end of this week. The other gift knit I showed you I'd started were the Peaceable mitts. I'm going to go and get a drink because I'm just annoying myself now. Right, sorry. Had a drink, lost the shawl, much more comfortable now. Yes, the other thing I showed you I'd started, and I had barely started them, was the Peaceable mitts by Erica Heuser, I think. Heuser. Not sure how it's pronounced, sorry. And I have got on quite well with those. You might be able to tell it's a bull elephant. So his trunk and his tusks have appeared, and we're just working our way up his ears now. I've started the increases for the thumb gusset, and that's the back. They actually look much nicer on camera than they do in real life, because my tension, I don't enjoy colour work. I have mentioned that before. And my tension is very tight, and partly that's deliberately because the person therefore has got very small hands, almost child-size hands. So I'm pulling them quite tight, and you can see here that it does show that I'm pulling it tight. But I think they'll do. I had to pull them down because at some point I'm doing them on magic loop, and at some point I decided to make a stitch out of the yarn as it went round the corner. So I had a stitch more than I needed and a hole. But I've dealt with that. That's all sorted out now. Everything's fine. I am quite pleased with how they're coming out. I can't say I'm enjoying the process of knitting them, and I am a little bit gutted that there needs to be two. But other than that, it's going wonderfully. I'll show you my floats. I know everybody likes to see floats. Those are my, oh, hang on. Those are my floats on the back. I've tucked them all in quite tightly, and those are my tight floats on the front. Because obviously putting things on when you wear rings and what have you, don't really want loose threads that are going to catch. And this is what am I knitting it in? The cream is West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply in milk, I think, and the grey is Drops Fable Unicolor in 115. So it's possibly not the strongest yarn and might break if someone caught a ring on it or a long fingernail or something. So I've tucked those floats in nice and snugly. The other thing I showed you, I have finished, and it is this. Yes, I know it's a bit wonky. It is from the Angel Cowl pattern by Fiona Stevenson Designs. It doesn't look quite the same as the picture. It's described as being a good beginner brioche pattern, and it certainly has been. As it's knit in the round, unfortunately, it's a bit like that. That's better. It's a bit wonky. It's got a Latvian braid on it, which again is something I've never done before. And it should have something that looks similar down at the bottom. But when I cast it on, I was using my phone. I hadn't printed the pattern out yet. And the writing was so tiny, and I missed, I think, the fact that I was meant to cast on with both colours. So the cast on edge doesn't look quite the same as it does in the pattern, but it's fine. This is for my husband, and it was going to be for my husband for Christmas, but unfortunately I was knitting away on it the other day. He doesn't usually take much notice of what I'm knitting, but he kept saying, "Is that a hat?" "No." "Is that for..." And then he went through the whole list of all our relatives that I might possibly be knitting for. And I just kept saying no, no, no. And eventually he said, "Is it for me?" And I had to go, "Well, yes, it is. Well done, you've spoiled Christmas." But really, I think he guessed, because black and red are his favourite colours. So yeah, so that one is finished. And I'm really pleased with it. I even, on the inside, I had what Stephen West describes as belts. When he shows you how to do the brioche, he says you should have shawls. Each stitch should have a shawl, not a belt. Well, I had 3 belts, and they were red, very, very clearly red over the black. And I even taught myself to ladder down and fix it. So I'm very proud of that achievement, because that was not easy. And this is the second time I've tried brioche, because I was not frightened of it, but I just looked and it was a bit like, I don't think I'm going to like that. But I did it on the Shawlography and realised that it wasn't anywhere near as scary as I thought it was. So then I did this, partly because I have a jumper or sweater with a brioche yoke to it that I want to knit, and a brioche shawl. quite a simple brioche shawl. There are a couple, I think one is called Flying Foxtails, of Stephen West's. I'm working my way up to that one because it's increasing and decreasing and it makes this sort of shape. I think that might be just beyond my reach at the moment, but hopefully I'm going to get there. That's all my gift knitting. I have cast on, just to keep you in the loop as it were, I've cast on the second sock. These were my Halloween socks and I got a bit caught up with gift knitting and they went into the I'll get round to it pile. Knit in Toil and Trouble from My Yarny Corner, dyed by Danny. Just gorgeous. I really like these darker, sort of darker variegated yarns. The pattern is Simple Flock Socks. I can't remember who by, but I'm sure I shared the pattern on episode 29, I'm going to say, hopefully. And I decided, because I've got all these things that I really, really want to cast on, that I'm clearing all my needles. And I worked it out last night. That means all my gift knits, obviously, 2 pairs of socks, Peter's cardigan, a blanket, the blanket kit that I won, and this, which you have not seen for a while. This is another version of the rocket tee that I'm knitting. And last time you saw it, I was just there where my little mouse is dangling. And since then, I have knit this much. And I am very, very nearly finished with the body. The sleeves, the stitches are on hold at the moment, and then really what you do is you pick them up and you do an I-cord bind off. But depending how much yarn I've got left, because obviously I've got 3 different yarns that I'm striping, I may make them a bit longer, not quite down to elbow length, but somewhere between the two, just so that they're a bit warmer. Because my other rocket tee, I did what the pattern says, and it's not really warm enough to wear in this sort of weather. It's kind of late spring, early summer, late summer, early autumn warm, but not, I mean, we're getting quite chilly weather now. So I was thinking I might make the sleeves on this just a little bit longer, because if I get cold, it's my arms, the tops of my arms and my hands that get cold. So if I can keep the tops of my arms warm, I'm okay. So this is, yeah, almost there. And again, every time I see it, I think, oh wow, I really love that. I'm striping 3 yarns. The pattern originally has 2 different. The one I knit successfully, we're not going to talk about the other one. The one I knit successfully, I did all in 1 yarn. But this one I am striping 3 different yarns. The solid pale green is from Amanda at Little Lycac Yarns. I really love her yarn. She doesn't have much in her shop because she dyes up a lot, does a shop update, and then that's your lot. She doesn't, as far as I know, she doesn't do pre-orders or dye to order or anything like that. I've got a couple of her yarns. That pale green one, when I bought that pale green one, I also bought sort of a shocking pink. It's not quite shocking pink, that's not right. It's a bright pink or a dark pink. I don't know quite how to describe it. It's that sort of pink. And I was looking at it the other day, and I mentioned there's a brioche, a brioche shawl that I want to knit. And I thought, I think I'd like to use that pink yarn. But obviously you need two colours. What am I going to do for the other one? So I had a look on her website and I found this. The camera's not really picking it up. It's only picking up the blue, but can you see? There's the pink. And this is called Cobweb, and it's from her Shakespeare collection. It's her luxury sock from the Midsummer Night's Dream. Cobweb is one of the fairies, and it's 85% super fine superwash merino, 15% nylon. I can't wait to cast this thing on. I keep coming up and stroking yarns and looking at patterns to give myself the impetus to carry on with clearing my needles, but I spend more time planning than I do actually clearing the needles. It came with that little fairy stitch marker. I love Amanda's yarns. I'm going to link her shop below. Have a look. Yeah, they're really nice. I also, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be buying Christmas presents, but I've done a bit of Christmas shopping for myself. I don't know if any of you are on Etsy or shop on Etsy, but when you open Etsy up, it tells you you've got messages, and you have a look and it says such and such a shop is having a sale, or such and such a shop has got new items in. And it told me that Little Mouse House was having a sale. I've only bought from Little Mouse House a couple of times before, but again, really enjoyed their yarns. In fact, I bought all the prizes for the sock along. The yarn prizes I bought came from Little Mouse House, which was the first time I'd bought from her. But I went on and she was having a sale, and I saw this. That's coming out quite well. So there's that kind of egg yolk yellow with a very dark, almost navy bottle green, and a turquoise and cream and blue, and then round here there's a little bit of purple. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's not going to be socks, because I've got quite a lot of socks at the moment. And this is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And I try and save the merino yarns for shawls and so on, because they it sounds really stupid. It's sock yarn, but I feel like it's a bit of a waste using merino yarn for socks, for myself anyway. Yeah, so I tend to, it will probably be a shawl. That's where I'm going with that. It will probably be a shawl at some point with something else. It's more than likely going to end up a shawl. And I saw these. I actually saw these on Instagram. She posted them on Instagram and I shot over there and grabbed them. These are, again, 75-25 superwash merino and nylon. These are called the bad guys. And my husband will tell you I'm a sucker for a bad guy. But do you remember I just said about how I love the dark variegated yarns? Well, these were mistakes. These were yarns that she dyed up and they hadn't quite come out how she wanted them. So she over dyed them with black. Well, they're just right up my street. I love them. Again, don't know what I'm going to do with them. they will probably end up in a shawl. Maybe a kind of a, not exactly a fade, because they don't fade into each other really, but something along those lines. That's been my yarny naughtiness. And I also bought a stitch marker, and I bought a shawl pin. Let me show you the shawl pin first. If any of you follow Crafty Cat Knitty Bits on Instagram, I've been buying stitch markers from her for years, before I even got into Instagram. But now I follow her on Instagram. Let me show you this first. This is a shawl pin. How pretty is that? Look. I have got a lot of shawls, either already made or in the planning. But anyway, on Instagram, she has a few cats, 3 or 4 cats, I think. And one of them is called Tom. And on Tuesdays, she has Tom Tuesday. Now, I love Tom. I am a Tom fan. And the stitch marker I bought was a Tom paw print. And it came with a little extra snowflake. But more excitingly than either of those, it came with a signed photo of Tom. And on the back it says, "Thank you for shopping at Tomazon. Love, Tom." Don't tell my cats that I loves another cat, but I do. Honestly, even if you don't buy stitch markers and stuff, it's worth following Crafty Cat Knitty Bits on Instagram just for Tom Tuesdays, because sometimes he does a video and he talks to you. I know, I'm very sad, but I can't help it. Right, I think that's everything. I did make notes. I went completely off. Oh, I didn't tell you. I was making, in my gift knits, I was making a scarf, wasn't I? In cream and sort of dusty pinks. That's finished and gone. It was for my best friend whose birthday was yesterday, and she has it now. So I will put a very bad photo on Instagram so that you can have a look at that. I think I have put it in my Ravelry project. In my Ravelry projects. If you actually, yes, go and have a look on Ravelry. I'm not putting it on Instagram. There are enough bad photographs of me as it is. I am Mousewitch on Instagram. That's my personal project page, as opposed to the Mouses Makes group. Yeah, there's a couple of photos on there. I didn't have quite enough yarn to make it long enough that you could wrap it around your neck and it not keep falling off. So what I did was I put a toggle on one corner, so you put it around your neck and then you can adjust it, because obviously it's crocheted, there's holes. You just push the toggle through to secure it however tight or loose you want it. I know, I'm a genius. She'll probably strangle herself, but I know they say you shouldn't give things like that to small children, but she's a grown woman. We should be okay. Should be. And before I go, I must say, get well to a good friend of mine who has been having an absolutely rotten time of it lately, and to top it all off has ended up in hospital. I won't name her, but get well soon. I think a message flashed up while I was recording this to say that you're coming home today. Hopefully you are, because we all miss you. But we'll see you when we see you, and take care. And for the rest of you, happy knitting until I hopefully see you next week. Bye everyone.